Hi everybody and welcome to Vlogmas Day 4. Good morning and welcome to Vlogmas Day 4. I hope you're all well. This is going to be interesting because I have had a few days where I haven't recorded. So this one is being recorded on the 14th of December. Last few days have been a bit rubbish. Not been particularly well. My mum hasn't been. Mum's been really unwell. She's there's some sort of cold or flu going around, and it's caught us both. So, but yeah, she's definitely had the worst of it. So I haven't really been wanting to record. I haven't really wanted to pick up the phone, the camera, whatever, you know. And I just haven't also had a lot to record either because I've just been sat inside. It happened at the worst possible time as well because we were going to have a lovely weekend. My sister and her fiance have gone to the Cotswolds for the weekend, and we are having their dog to stay. He's a cockapoo called Frank. He's adorable, and we were going to have a lovely time, and you know, take him out for lots of walks and all that. But it's just been a bit rubbish. We've also had to cancel something fun we were gonna do on Monday because even though I'm mostly okay now, my mum's still really ill. We were gonna go and see a live orchestrated version of The Holiday, which is one of my favourite films and one of my mum's favourite films, but we've had to sort of resell the tickets because just wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be nice when mum's not well. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but never mind. It was always next year. The Holiday in concert is always a very popular event and it's on every year. I think I might have just heard Frank come down the stairs. Frank, did you get down? Frankie? Frank? No, I guess not. He's got back up again. So yeah, it is a shame, but there's always next time. Hit the pen. Yeah? There is, isn't there? Why are you hanging off the sofa? Why are you hanging off? Eh? What you doing? Why are you hanging off that sofa? Coco, don't be rude. Hey, no. Don't be rude. We have had Coco now. It was yesterday, actually, on the 13th. 6 years. Which I can't believe. I know, you're working your tail out, you pen. You working it. Oh, yeah. So yeah, 6 years. 6 years of Coco. Penny. All right, cooks. Okay. Show me one of her little inverted sneeze thingies. Oh, Pen. Are you a happy Pen? Is that what you're telling me? Hey? Yeah. So, as for today, what's happening? This one might be a bit weird. I might end up having to sort of record over 2 days because I still don't know if there's going to be enough going on for me to make it worthwhile just for one. That's the beauty, though, of recording Vlogmas a little bit early. You know, I totally respect people who can just record it on the day and then edit it, but you just don't know what's going to happen every day. Some days might just have no real point to film. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Really want to get Penny out for a walk, but I need to wait until my stepdad gets back home because someone needs to watch the other two and Mum is in bed. So I also need to get a shower before I go out. I'm going to get some lunch. I'm going to order in, I must admit, which is something I don't really like to do that often, but I'm in the mood for McDonald's, and I sort of thought, oh, who cares? It's Christmas. So I'm going to order. I haven't had a McDonald's for ages, but I'm going to look at their little menu, because they, you know, they have their festive specials or whatever, and see what they have and order from them. It is about 11:30, by the way. But yeah, sorry for the random rambling intro there, but see how it's all a bit odd. We haven't even got the decorations up yet, but never mind. I mean, God, this is still a win compared to last Christmas. Alright, it's now about 2 o'clock. Sadly, I didn't get any more film this morning, but that was simply because I had a really long and really pleasant conversation with a really good friend of mine. The friend I mentioned a couple of days ago, she lives in Gibraltar, so we don't get to see each other very often, but we like to have really nice long conversations on FaceTime or whatever, so we had one of those today because we're both free. Right, I'm just in the process of looking for one of Penny's wobbling toys to put some of her treats in. Don't really want to go too far into the grass because there might be dog poo, not Penny's but Coco's, our other dogs. Oh, it's so annoying. I don't think I know where it is. Because I want her to have an interactive toy, and I was going to show you how I do it. I really shouldn't be going on the grass. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I hoped it would just sort of be, because we have a path along sort of this stretch of the garden which is very narrow and it has grass on either side, and I hoped it would sort of be on the verge of here it is. Oh, that was perfect. It literally was on the verge, but I'd missed it the first time round. And Penny knows exactly what it is, just so she's following me. Right, this toy, it's a treat dispenser. Sorry, I'm just going to put this down for a second. This table's a bit wet. Oh well. Treat dispensing toy, it has 2 holes for the treats to go in and obviously for the treats to come out of. You can sort of shut them if you want. And it also has this funny noise that the dogs seem to absolutely love, and that makes her even more excited to get the treats out. Right, no, so you're not on the side of the treats, because then you'll find she's usually very good with treats, but as I haven't got her treats in her treat pouch, which when they're in the treat pouch she knows not to get to them, and also they're sort of quite a thick pouch so she can't smell them as well, then she's really good. But when they're in the pocket, it's a bit like she doesn't actually snatch or anything, but she's very interested, and I have to just keep saying, no, come on to the other side, good girl. So I'm kind of think maybe take the entire top of this treat thing off, which would be much easier, because then I can tip them all in at once like a Kong wobbler, which is a very similar thing, but it's in the shape of a cone. Oh, you've got a ball pen, good girl. I'm sorry though, my love, I'm filling your treat thing up. She's like, okay, if you're not going to let me have the treats, then I'll do something else. It's quite windy today. Again, it was so still yesterday, but I don't know what's going on with the weather. It's so hit and miss. But I guess that's what this time of year, well, I guess that's what any time of year in this country is really. Right, almost done. So they're just slotting them in, and then I'm going to adjust the holes so that they're only just big enough for them to come out of, because that gives her a bit longer to enjoy them. Whereas if they're sort of coming out properly all the time, then you only have it for a couple of minutes. Right, now I'm going to get her. Pen, come, sit, good girl, wait. Now she's sitting on the floor. I'm going to go to the top of the Penny, come here. Right, sit, wait. 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 Good girl, wait. Good girl, wait. Okay. So what I did, I thought I better stop talking, because
She was really good at it. She sat for a little while, but then when I sort of turned my attention to you, she thought, oh, I don't have to sit anymore. So she got up and I made her come back. That was my fault really for not sort of continuing to tell her she needed to wait. But yeah, I made her come back. I got her to sit and wait while I went up the steps of the garden. And I made her wait for quite a while just to reinforce. And then I gave her the command, which was okay. And she ran and almost leapt up the stairs and the steps, and she's got it now. So let's join her and see what she's doing. Hi, Frank. Frankie, what are you doing out here on your own? Well, you're not on your own, you're with me, but come on inside. Because I don't want you to get locked out again like yesterday. You're too quiet. Come on, Frank. Good boy. Inside. Come on. Frankie. Good boy. In you go. Good boy. In you go. He is so light on his, and Penny's light on her feet. But Frank is at something else. Because he's a cockapoo. And his fur is so thick and also so wavy and long. It basically sticks out about an inch from his body. And it covers his paws really densely. So even with Penny, like, she's quiet and I miss her sometimes. I'm like, oh my god, where are you? And she's right there. But for a start, she tends to make a few little noises. And she usually has a collar on, which is... I have that on anyway, but it certainly helps with the noise. But Frank doesn't have a collar because he uses a harness when he's out. And his fur is so long that it just completely obscures everything. So yesterday, when I came out with Penny to sit in the garden for a bit, I think I captured that actually. I mistakenly, thinking that he'd gone in, my stepdad came out for a vape and then went back inside, and I thought that Frank had gone back inside with him, but he hadn't. Dave, my stepdad, had missed him and not realised, and I went inside, and then a minute later I heard this and it was Frank. He'd been locked out and I felt terrible. But he's just, I think it's a combination, A, when he's so quiet and I'm not used to living with him. He doesn't live here, so it's like with Penny, she's very similar. If I don't have her collar on, if I've taken her collar off to groom her or whatever, and I have to be very vigilant and make sure she's there. Right, I'm going to go back down to the bottom of the garden because me talking up here is not going to work because it's too windy. But yeah, I'm very vigilant with Pen, whereas with Frank, I just sort of assumed that my sighted stepdad had seen him and taken him in. But yeah, I felt so bad. Oh well. But yeah, Penny's enjoying hers. I haven't really got many more plans for today. Thankfully, things are going to really speed up and get moving this week. This week's quite a busy one. Like I said yesterday, tomorrow was the day I was meant to be going to see a orchestrated version of The Holiday, but my mum's just not well enough, so that's a shame. But on Tuesday I'm going to be out, on Wednesday I'm going to be out, on Thursday I'm going to be out, Friday I'm out, so it's a busy week, and then obviously next week, it's the week after that, it's Christmas. So yeah, thankfully things are going to pick up a little bit. But I think there are always these days, aren't there, when you're doing Vlogmas? Because it's kind of like you want to do it every day. Sometimes days just aren't that busy and you've just got to fill it with chat or whatever. As I said earlier, I have decided to, well, really in order to bulk out this vlog a little bit, because let's be honest, not a lot's happened today. Me still feeling a bit sort of ill and recovering from my cold. Although thankfully I have just had a bit of nose spray and that's definitely cleared it up a little bit. I decided to compile a list of my top 25 books that I read this year. As I said a bit earlier on, I read nearly 300 books this year and I don't know how, but I did. Kind of narrowing down that list to 25 has been harder than I thought it would be, but really, really worthwhile and really enjoyable actually. It kind of made me remember books that I read back in January and revisit them a little bit. So hopefully you'll find this a little bit interesting. If not, feel free to skip this bit, although let's be honest, you won't have a very long vlog if you do that, because
not a lot else has happened. Now, I'm recording this as usual on my phone. I am reading the list via my Apple Watch. I'm going to do an entirely different episode, specifically talking about how I do certain things, like use a phone, look at an Apple Watch, all this. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments and they will be answered. I may even do a Q&A, honestly. That might be quite fun, actually. Maybe post the thing on Reddit or something, or on Instagram or Facebook, and then get some questions and answer them. But yeah, that will be a separate episode, and that will probably not be a Vlogmas one, simply because I want to do a specific one to address certain questions and things, misconceptions. But yeah, if you're wondering how are you doing this, how are you reading this, Lauren, you will soon find out. I got ChatGPT to compile, not to compile the list, I did that myself, but to sort of split it into genres. It's done a fairly good job. There are a few that maybe could be put into a different one, or certainly could be put into one or other of the genres. But overall it's done a really good job, and also it added in the synopses for me, because let's be honest, I didn't have the time nor the energy to do that myself. So I used artificial intelligence. Why not? Right, let's get on with it, because let's be honest, I ramble far too much, and this could end up being an hour long if I talk too much. So let's go. First of all, we have mystery / thriller. I love mystery. The first one is This Book Kills by Ravina Guron. So honestly, this gave me such a Good Girl's Guide to Murder vibes. That book I would have mentioned, and it would have been in this list if I hadn't read it last year. But that book is fantastic, and this is obviously a very different book by a different author. I believe it's actually Ravina Guron's debut novel, but it definitely gives me very similar vibes, and also it kind of semi-belongs to another genre that I absolutely love, boarding school fiction. It is set in a boarding school, and I don't know why that sort of setting just makes for a really great book. And according to the synopsis, it is a witty murder mystery set in a boarding school where a student discovers that a story they wrote might have inspired a real murder. Fast-paced and full of twists, and that is certainly the case. Far too frequently with these sorts of books, I end up maybe even just inadvertently guessing who the killer or who the perpetrator was and getting it right really quickly. With this one, that did not happen. Second one is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson, who is also incidentally the author of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And this is a high stakes thriller about 6 friends trapped in an RV by a sniper with secrets unravelling as they fight for survival. Oh, so worth a watch. It's been out far too. So worth a watch, so worth a read, rather. Maybe should have been editing this as I go along. I think it's because like part of my mind's like this should be a film. But so worth a read, and it came out in 2023 or 2022 even, but I just didn't have the chance. I had too many books on my list, on my to read list, and just didn't get the chance. But I'm so glad I finally did. Cards on the Table by Agatha Christie. You may very quickly come to realise that I'm a bit obsessed with Agatha Christie in general, but Hercule Poirot in particular. The books that feature him are just incredible. I don't dislike Miss Marple, but it's one of those where you think, oh, I'll just sit down with a nice hot chocolate and a biscuit and read it. Whereas Poirot is much more intense in certain. Then we move on to YA books, young adults. I have a lot to say about this genre. I am going to be honest, I, as a 27-year-old woman, love YA books. Yeah, okay, the themes, or at least the stories themselves may not be quite as complex as certain other genres, but actually I think the themes and topics, there are
in these types of books actually can be very complex and very hard hitting, and I think people often don't really give this genre as much, and the authors who write within this genre, as much credit as they deserve. People seem to be under the misapprehension rather, that because it's written for younger people, it isn't as worthy of reading, isn't good literature, and I completely disagree with that. I still find new books now, as I've clearly, because this is in my list of top books I've read this year as an adult. I still find YA books now that I'm so hooked on and I absolutely love, and I just think it's you're actually limiting yourself a little bit if you're, you know, only if you, I mean, obviously everyone has different genres that they like. Some people might not like YA books, and that's completely valid, but if you're limiting yourself because you think you're not going to learn anything from it or you're not going to gain anything from it, then I think that's, you know, more for you, in my opinion. Maybe a bit controversial, but there we are. And the first one in this category is My Mad Fat Teenage Diary by Ray Earl. This could also potentially be in the non-fiction / memoir category, but I decided to put it in this one because it is, I'd say, within that YA genre. I wish I found this book 10 years earlier, because the protagonist, or the actual person that the book is based on, was 17 when she started writing it, and actually I felt that I could really empathise with a lot of the stuff she was going through. My mental health at 17 was not the best. My body image at 17 was really not the best. I was lonely at 17. I had some bloody good friends, but I struggled a lot with the fact that sighted people my age didn't tend to give me much of a look in. And now I just frankly don't give a damn. I think my friends are my friends and I really couldn't care less, but at the time it mattered so much. And I just felt for her so much, and the word role model is used maybe too much. Rael never even considered that she might be one, but actually I think she, of all people, really can be, because she shows the way that she writes about herself versus the way that she sort of writes about her friends just shows you actually, you know, you really should treat yourself with the same respect that you treat other people. And her struggles really sort of mirrored a lot of my own, although I could really empathise with these characters, and so many of the experiences that they had, I thought, yep, I did that. I had this embarrassment, I felt this, you know, I went through this as a teenager, and it's just so brilliant. And the synopsis is a brutally honest and touching story of friendship between two teenage girls in 1990s Guernsey. The really interesting thing about these two teenagers is actually they're very much opposites. One of them is the classic sort of class clown, doesn't seem to really care that much, very confident, or seemingly so. The other one is absolutely not confident, doesn't tend to get in any trouble, and yet they find themselves really connecting on a deeper level. And I think that is so important for people to understand, that, you know, you can connect with people that you would never even imagine you would want to. Then we have Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I really did not think I would like this book, not for any like really awful reason, but this particular period in history is not one that I'm massively interested in, but it's incredibly good. You feel as though you are living in this time, as though you're part of this group of people, and yet the time is so distant from where we are now. And it's a gripping novel about Thomas Cromwell's rise to power, filled with political intrigue and drama. Then we have the wonderful Silas Marner by George Eliot. I first encountered this particular character when I listened to the Focus on the Family radio theatre version, starring
the late great Michael Williams as the protagonist, and I just fell in love with the whole thing, just everything, the characters, the wonderful people. This shows you the entire scope of human nature and experience. You know, it's just a really wonderful depiction of a certain time that is long gone, and yet you feel like you could still easily be a part of, even though your life is so different from theirs. And it's a poignant tale of redemption and human connection, following a reclusive weaver who finds new meaning in life through an orphaned child. Then we have a book that I've known about for maybe the majority of my life, but just never really bothered reading for that very reason, because I'd heard so much about it and I didn't want to be disappointed, and I kind of already thought that I knew what it was about, and that is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it's the ultimate pirate adventure, featuring treasure maps, mutinies, and the iconic Long John. Perhaps could have been in the mystery genre, but it's here anyway, and it's A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. I have known about and been obsessed with Sherlock Holmes since I was about 14. Let's be honest, I first encountered the character when I listened to the radio drama adaptations, which started in the 1980s, I believe. I believe they were adapted by Bert Coules, and the two main leads were Clive Merrison as Sherlock Holmes, and again Michael Williams as Dr. Watson, and they did a fantastic job. But I just came to the point where I thought, I really want to read this unabridged, and I have had in my Audible library for the last maybe 6 or 7 years the entire compendium of short stories and full-length novels read by the fantastic Stephen Fry, and it was a bit daunting when I first got these, and I think that's why it took me so long to start them, but I thought, come on, I love Stephen Fry, I love Sherlock Holmes, what am I doing, why am I not reading it? And I'm so glad it's the sci-fi. I had to include this one even though I've literally just finished reading it. It's the most recent book I've read in this entire list, or even just in the entire list of books I've read this year, but it is still so fresh in my mind, and it's just wonderful. And that is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, a breathtaking entry into Sanderson's Cosmere universe, blending epic world building, vivid characters, and thrilling action. This is true fantasy as far as I'm concerned. There are a lot of books out there that are absolutely fantastic in their own right, but I wouldn't actually consider them proper fantasy. I won't name any names, but this one is, it's so long, it's so complex, it's so wonderful. 13 is Witches Abroad by Terry Pratchett. I love Terry Pratchett. I've loved Terry Pratchett for the majority of my adult life, and actually even before that, I'd say teenage years onwards. And yet again, I've not read them unabridged because I've, you know, listened to them in so many other ways. But I tried this one, Witches Abroad, maybe 5 years ago now, but the narrator of the version that I had was just so wrong. Then we have The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey, oh gosh, Nefenaga? I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This is a beautifully tragic love story between Claire and Henry, whose lives are complicated by Henry's uncontrollable time travelling. I feel like it's one of those where everyone's heard of it, but no one seems to actually read it, and I'm so glad I gave it a try this year. I maybe would never have purchased it, but it was part of the Audible Plus catalogue that I have access to as a member of Audible, and I just thought, why not? And I'm so glad I did, because time travel as well is just one of those things that I just love, that everyone at some point in their life wants to be able to achieve, I think. And then we have literary fiction. The first one in that list is Hope Meadows by Lucy Daniels. I think Lucy Daniels is one of those authors or collections of authors actually, because it's a collection of different people under one pseudonym. The foremost of whom being Ben M. Baglio, I believe. But if he belonged to a certain generation or maybe a certain place, because I don't think Lucy Daniels is very far-reaching in terms of sort of geography. I don't think they're very well known in America, although I could be very wrong about that. You all know about Lucy Daniels if you're from a certain time and place. You know, the Animal Arc series, the Dolphin Diaries series, they were such a big part of my childhood. I loved these characters and still do, even now. Really, really took me to my heart as such a young kid, and I just adored the whole setting, the entire thing. It was so authentic, it was so atmospheric. The Animal Arc series in particular, which was set in a fictional village in North Yorkshire, which actually was meant to be set about 10 miles from where I was born and where I still live today. I felt like I could just go 10 minutes down the road and be there. It was just wonderful. And this is actually a sequel series to Animal Arc. You don't have to have read the original series to enjoy this one. This is actually for adults, though frankly I probably would have even still read it if it was for kids, let's be honest. And it is a warm-hearted story of a vet in training who moves back to the Yorkshire village where she grew up, and it's inspired by the wonderful Animal Arc series. Then we have 2 books by the same author. I don't usually like to do this when I'm compiling these shortlists, but I just could not pick between these 2. I really couldn't. And they're both by Carmel Harrington, wonderful Irish author. The first one is The Woman at 72 Derry Lane. I cried basically most of the way through this book. Granted, I read it when everything was going really wrong in my life, so that could have been a reason, or at least part of a reason. But also just the entire thing, the characters, the experiences they're going through, the experiences they've been through, everything, just everything about it was just insane. It's a moving, character-driven story about 2 very different women who have hidden struggles, whose friendships bring hope and healing. Now, what I will say is that even though these characters are fictional, one of them was involved in actually a very real tragedy, which was the 2004 tsunami, which started, I believe, in Thailand. I was obviously very young when this happened. I was never there, but I felt when I read this that I was literally there experiencing it all. And you don't realise, even though everyone hears about the tsunami and they think, oh, it's dreadful, you do not realise how awful it actually was until you read a book like this, where the author has really extensively researched it. And I take my hat off to Carmel Harrington. She did a fantastic job with this. Then we have Every Time a Bell Rings by the same author, and that's a wonderfully modern, magical reimagining of It's a Wonderful Life, filled with heartwarming messages about love and second chances. You don't have to have watched It's a Wonderful Life in order to love this book. I'm obsessed with It's a Wonderful Life. It's one of my Christmas traditions. I always watch it on Christmas Eve. It's just wonderful, perfect for this time of year, perfect for, I'd say, anyone who loves Christmas and who loves a good Christmas read. So powerful, so poignant, moving, and definitely one that I will read and read again every year, probably. Oh, excuse me, it's getting a bit late. Not long to go now though, thankfully, as I've probably talked on for however long I dread to think. Alright, then we have a man called Uwe. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, I really am. That's by Frederick Brand. Heartwarming tale of a grumpy old man whose life changes when he reluctantly bonds with his quirky new neighbours. The neighbours are just fantastic. I love all the characters in this book. It's just so well drawn, and it will really resonate with people who have struggled with certain aspects of life, put it that way. Then we have actually a play, but I'm kind of putting it in here anyway just because I just love it. It's A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams, another one that everyone seems to have heard of and yet rarely read or listened to. And it's a powerful and tragic play about desire, illusion, and the clash of two worlds, centering on the fragile Blanche Dubois. Then we have a non-fiction and memoir, The Little Library Cookbook by Kate Young, a delightful collection of recipes inspired by literary classics, perfect for book lovers who enjoy cooking. And that is exactly what I am. I'm a massive book lover. I always have been. I devour books so quickly, as you'll notice when you hear how many books I've read this year. But I also love cooking and baking, so this is perfect. I actually have a very similar book, which I maybe shouldn't have included in the shortlist considering how similar it is to that one, but I have done anyway, and that is Five Go Feasting by Josh Sutton. It's a charming book that combines recipes with nostalgia, creating meals inspired by Enid Blyton's famous 5 adventures. When you think of authors who included such wonderful, vivid descriptions of food in their books, Enid Blyton is right up there. From the midnight feasts in the Mallory Towers series and the St. Clair series to the little picnics that the famous 5 always seem to have, even though they include foods that these days we may consider even unpalatable, such as tongue and other sort of things like that. I just think it's wonderful. You feel like, you know, a tongue sandwich. I personally wouldn't really enjoy that, I don't think, but the way Enid Blyton writes about it, you just think, yeah, I would totally eat that. Then we have I Haven't Been Entirely Honest With You by Miranda Hart, a hilarious and heartfelt memoir offering Miranda's trademark humour while exploring life lessons and personal growth. Oh, that's a book that will stick with me for a very long time, put it that way. Round Island with a Fridge by Tony Hawks. I love Tony Hawks. He is hilarious. Not to be confused, by the way, with Tony Hawk, was he an ice skater or a skier or something? Sorry, I really don't even know. But everyone always seemed to get the two confused. And Tony Hawks, the author of this particular book, has mentioned on numerous occasions how people often write to him and say, oh, you're really great, I've seen you on TV. And he sort of thinks, no, you really haven't. But he's a comedian who is often in panel games such as Just a Minute and I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. That's where I discovered him actually, in one or other of those, and he often mentions the book that he wrote, and I just on a whim decided to pick it up and read it, and I'm so glad I did. It's very funny and just really real, and you again feel like you could just be there when he's describing all these things. And the synopsis is a quirky travel memoir about a man hitchhiking around Ireland with a fridge. Gosh, really? Considering the title, I love these synopses, but you've got to think, you know, when you read the title and you read the synopsis, you think, wow, I would never imagine that's what it was about when I picked up this book. I mean, really, as part of a bet, full of humour and heart. Then we have Terms and Conditions by Isenda Maxstone Graham. Now, if you're like me, when I was a kid, was absolutely obsessed, and let's be honest, as an adult I still am, with boarding school fiction. Angela Brazil was the very early queen of boarding school fiction, and then of course the it sort of passed on then to Enid Blyton, who everyone remembers so fondly and other people really don't. But Mallory Towers, St. Clair's, the Naughtiest Girl series, so many of those books. I wanted to go to a boarding school, and then I did, and I regretted it massively. But let's be honest, as a kid I wanted to be there. I wanted to be a part of these midnight feasts and everything. And this book is about the real girls who went to boarding schools from like the 30s to the 70s, and actually their real experiences, which were in some ways mirroring the experiences of the girls in the fictional books, and yet in many other ways really, really not. And what I love about this, because I often find non-fiction books a bit daunting because I'm not really sure if I'm going to really be as interested in it as I think I am. But this one is very accessible. The chapters are split into particular aspects of boarding school experience. One chapter is about food and drink, for example. Another one is about the lessons, the misses who ran the lessons, about the nuns who often ran certain schools, about extracurricular activities, for example. And it's basically an entire collection of anecdotes from girls who went to these schools and who experienced all these pretty crazy things. Now, the synopsis is a fascinating look into the quirky and restrictive world of English girls' boarding schools in the mid-20th century. Then we have classics. The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens, a sentimental and dramatic tale about Little Nell and her grandfather exploring themes of greed, poverty, and resilience. It's now very late, and I've just realised while editing this episode of Vlogmas that I made quite a big mistake, and I completely forgot to read out one of the titles of one of the books. So if you are sort of wondering what was that book that you didn't give us the title of, it was just after the book called My Mad Fat Teenage Diary, the one about a girl living in the 1980s called Ray Earl. Then we had a book which was set in Guernsey in the 1990s, and it was about two teenage girls. That one was called Paper Aeroplanes by Dawn O. Porter. Right, I really am going to go now. See you!